the Redevelopment Agency meeting for the 21st of August, 2018. We are going to kick off this meeting with general comments to the board. As a reminder, we accept public comment either in written form, in a physical piece of paper, or a comment card. You can email us, you can set up one-on-one meetings, or we offer 2 minutes for each person to speak to us today here to the full body. Just for the record, I'd like to note that we have received a physical letter from Justin Moran regarding the State Street project area creation. And I have 2 comment cards here. The first is for Kyle Lamalfa, followed by Santiago Rodriguez. So Mr. Lamalfa, if you'd like to come up, we'll give you 2 minutes. Former council member, Kyle Lamalfa.
Greetings, council members. I'm here to speak about the creation of the 9-line RDA area. And I just wanted to tell you a little story about how the genesis of the idea was back in 2014. And the genesis of this idea came when I noticed that in the primary business node of the whole neighborhood, 9th to 9th West, there was a smoke shop on each corner of the block, a smoke shop on all 4 corners. And I thought, man, our neighborhood, we can do better than this. But we didn't really have any tools to work with. But when I was sitting in your chair, Mr. Chair, I realized that the RDA was a perfect tool. And the time the executive director, DJ Baxter, said, man, you don't want an RDA, you want a CDA. See, with an RDA, it takes 2 years to get this done. And with a CDA, we can get it done in 6 months. Well, here we are, 4 years later, talking about a CDA, and we're on the precipice of major change for the West Side. This perhaps is the greatest investment in the West Side in the 150 years of its settlement. And you all have the power to do something truly remarkable. The only thing missing from this CDA is seed money, is up to plant a seed. And you have seen in the past, in the Granary and in the West Temple Gateway, that it can take 10, 15, 20 years to get enough increment built up to make a serious major investment. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can do this with a pledge of capital improvement program dollars to start this CDA outright. And that takes a sacrifice of the city. But there's another way to do it. And that is to roll back the clock to the base year. Roll back the base year to the year that this idea was generated, which is 2014. And when you set the base year to 2014, I'll be very brief. You'll all have the money available to you that you can put your name on the change. That will be available. And thank you again. This 9-line RDA is an amazing investment.
And thank you for kickstarting this project area, Kyle. Up next, we have Sergio Rodriguez, and that is the final comment card I have. I have a card over here. I'll have staff grab that. Mr. Rodriguez, would you like to speak to us today? Oh, okay, this is written comment. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And we have 2 more comment cards coming my way, so we'll hold tight for a second. 3 more. While we're waiting for these comment cards, I'd also like to note for the public that we have 2 public hearings today. One on the new project area creation for 9-line and State Street. Also for our budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 2019. I'd like to note that after that public comment, we have a closed session with our legal counsel to discuss real property acquisition. So be prepared for that. We have 1 comment card left for Dan Potts. Welcome to the mic, Dan.
One of them, right? Yeah, my name is Dan Potts. I'm a longtime resident of the West Side and of Poplar Grove. I looked at the draft plan for the RDA, and I think it's a great start. But again, it's a draft. Many of the people here know, Charlie and James and Andrew know that, and Aaron also know that that I'm kind of a nature guy, and so for quality of life and living on the West Side, we lean on an old, not that old plan called the Blueprint Jordan River, and that plan, that study that they did, indicated that what citizens really wanted was not more sports fields or more development of all these kinds. The people along the Jordan River corridor and along the 9 line really want nature. They want more nature. We've sprawled to death, and here we are. And this RDA will be really great for improving conditions, housing, all that kind of stuff, and I'm excited. I think that's exactly what the West Side needs, and I reflect what Kyle or what LaMalfa said. But I still think that we need more nature, and as some of the most wasteful water users in the entire world of culinary water to water Kentucky bluegrass that probably belongs in Kentucky. I think we can do better. And so I've got a couple of, I didn't have time to make copies, but I've got a couple of things so I can hand these out and maybe we can make copies. I've got a couple of general comments: improvements in the community's desire to improve connections to nature as reflected in the Blueprint Jordan River, and also improvement in the city's overall overuse of culinary water through conservation efforts. And so there's a couple of projects on the back side that kind of reflect those things.
If you want to hand that to Becky here in the purple, she'll make copies and give it to the board members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. All right, anybody else in the audience like to give us your general comments to the board today? That being said, we will...
Can I talk for just a minute?
Sure, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the mic, state your name, and we'll give you 2 minutes.
Okay, all right. I don't need 2 minutes probably. My name's Carol Hovey, and I'm on 10th West. I'm on the south end of the original Cannon Farm, and I'm really excited about this improvement. From what I understand, we're going to have a walking trail, bike trail, and we already have a lot of families that come by and people on bikes, and a lot of times they'll stop or they'll just make their way there just to see the animals, the goat, the ponies. And so I'm really excited about this, and looking forward to having the trail, go right around our farm. And I put together a little bit of history, and I'm going to email that to Tammy. And hopefully we can kind of include that so people, if they go around this trail, they can kind of have some information of, the old Cannon Farm and what that is just before the river.
Lovely. Thank you so much for your comments. Anybody else? All right. Moving right along, we are at item B1, which is the open public comment for 9 Line and State Street, as opposed to general comments to the board. Anybody else want to speak to the project areas? I have no cards on me. Okay, item B2 is a public comment for our first budget amendment for fiscal year 2019. Anybody else want to speak to this item? Nobody? Will you do me a favor, audience? If you are here for the adoption of the new project area, will you raise your hand? 1. Okay, I'm just trying to get an understanding of why everybody is here today. I don't know if maybe RDA staff has any insight on why we have such a large audience today.
9 Line and State Street.
Is it the new project area creation? All right. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out if I can rearrange my agenda here. So, but before we do anything, I am going to look for a motion to close the public hearings.
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Luke and a second by Board Member Fowler. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion carries. Those public hearings are closed. Okay. I'm actually going to push the closed session until after adoption of the two project areas, if that's okay with my board members here. Okay, great. So we're going to go on to item, let's see. We're going to jump all the way to item number 4 on our agenda, which is the adoption of the State Street and 9-Line Community Reinvestment Area final plans. And at the desk, we have Tammy from the RDA. We have Susan Lundmark from the RDA, as well as the COO of our redevelopment agency, Danny Walls. All right, Danny, do you want to kick it off?
Be happy to. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We are very excited to be here today and be presenting with you the final draft of the redevelopment plans for the 9-Line and State Street project areas. To start, if the request of the chair, I'd like to turn it over to Tammy and Susan, just give a quick update on where we're at and kind of some feedback on the outreach that they've done to get us here, and then open up to any questions of the board.
All right. We'll give it over to Tammy and Susan. And before you begin, if you could just let us know, if you can recall, the first time, like a date, the first time you actually went to the community with any sort of information or soliciting feedback on these two project areas. I'd love to know a timestamp on that.
Early 2016 is my first experience.
Yeah, and the first one I found was February 2016 also.
So we're looking at 2.5 years here.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
So going back all the way to April of 2016, that's when the board actually adopted 2 resolutions authorizing the survey boundaries for the 2 areas. And since then, RDA staff, as we just discussed, we've conducted a community outreach campaign. We've coordinated internally with divisions and departments. We've worked with a consultant to complete draft public benefit analyses for both of them. We've drafted the plans. We've held preliminary discussions with taxing entity partners. We've worked with the city surveyor to develop legal descriptions. We've provided the 30-day public notice, which is why I think there's so many people in our audience, pursuant to state law. And we've conducted a second phase of the community outreach campaign, which was going back out into the community to check in to see if we got it right with the draft plans. So today, for your consideration, we have the final draft. If the board wishes, it can be adopted via RDA resolution. If it's adopted, the next steps in the process is adopting it via city ordinance by the Salt Lake City Council. And then RDA staff will go back out and continue negotiations with taxing entity partners. And then the next step in that is if taxing entity partners select to participate, we will enter into a separate interlocal agreement with each of those taxing entity partners. So a high-level summary of what I led the 9-Line plan, and the community outreach actually was launched in May of 2016 with a really large open house at the Sorensen Unity Center. We also did a neighborhood questionnaire. We worked with Community United to reach out to the Hispanic community in particular, just because of the large Spanish-speaking population on the west side. We received about 700 responses to that questionnaire. We've been in community events since 2016, checking in with the community, getting their feedback, and then ultimately making sure that we got it right with the draft plan. Susan and I also collaboratively went out to different stakeholders within the neighborhood and within the larger Salt Lake City community. We've met with governmental agencies, local businesses, schools. We've gone to school community councils. I've been out in the community more recently at Groove in the Grove, Rose Park Community Fair, the Fisher Mansion Fest, Sorensen Unity Fair, back out to the community councils. And overwhelmingly, I think as far as the 9-Line goes, feedback's been positive. There are some misconceptions that do happen with RDA areas about eminent domain and what the city will do in the neighborhood and if taxes will increase. But once community members realize what the RDA is and what will happen, they're generally supportive of the area. So I'll turn it over to Suze to talk about outreach with State Street.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just go through it really quickly. It's very similar to what was done for the 9-Line, but we kicked off our first open house was in March of 2016, and staff attended a few community council meetings prior to that to let community councils know that that first one was coming up in March. We held 2 open houses for State Street, one at Horizonte School and one at the Salt Lake County Complex, which was done in May at the Salt Lake County Complex. And then attended community council meetings, school community council meetings, Groove in the Grove twice to discuss along with the 9-line project area plan. Recently went to the Sugar House Night Out Against Crime and also attended 3 community council meetings in June, July, and August to let people know about the draft plan and that about this hearing today and about the opportunity to comment. So I would say for the most part, it's also been well received. Some people have expressed ambivalence in terms of they're really excited about the opportunity for reinvestment, concerned that their property taxes will go up. And that is 2 sides of that coin that people are talking about and discussing. But all in all, I think for the most part, it's been very favorable in terms of what kinds of tools and programs the RDA can introduce into this area.
Any major changes since we last spoke about these draft plans? Anything to speak of? No?
Nope. Not for
Okay.
No
State Street.
changes.
In that case, I will open it up to questions, comments, ideas from board members. Council member or board member Rogers.
Mine is just a timeline. I know that you just went through it. The taxing entities going back once this is approved. Timeline, I mean, rough estimates. I know we've said that this is usually 6 months, and here we are 2.5 years later, right? So
You're probably looking at 3 to 4 months to just go out to those entities, start the conversation, do whatever level of negotiations or discussion you have to do with them, and then getting it on their agenda as well as back on our agenda for approval.
getting the
So-
interlocal all worked out and agreed to and signed off about 3 to 4 months.
Yep.
Anybody else? Board member Mendenhall.
Yeah, thank you. Are we looking at backdating the start time of the areas at all, or is it set to commence at the time of the signing with the
We have not
interlocal?
considered that prior to the comment earlier and the question now. That's certainly something you can do, and that's certainly something that could be part of the negotiation of the interlocal agreement with the entities. I mean, that's just like any other term that they would agree to.
I think it would be interesting for the board to see when other project areas have been created, how often that has or has not happened, and maybe under what context it has happened. Like
The
what-
backdating.
Yeah, the considerations that past boards have taken in doing any backdating. Jen looks like she might have a thought, though.
I'm thinking back to the project areas that have been created since I've been here, and most of them have not taken 2.5 years, and so I think they're not entirely analogous situations, but certainly the analysis started in earnest when the plan was almost ready to be adopted, and so the base year was usually that analysis year. But maybe it's actually a question we could ask the attorney's office about what the guidance is from state code about when that baseline year can be set, because maybe that determines it more than anything. So
State code does give guidance that the base year should be the last year the tax was equalized. So it does, but I think there is room for negotiation in the interlocal agreement.
That's the general statement that they recommend, but you do have the ability to negotiate that as part of anything else. I don't know how that would be received by the other taxing entities. I think they'd probably just want to show that, what that quantifies as in a dollar amount.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
in looking at State Street, which you and I share through our districts, and the amount of housing increase in our city, a good deal of that has happened. Well, part of that has happened within the State Street project area, and in the 2.5 years it's taken us to get to this point. I've often wished, I wish we already had this captured in here. I wish that we were measuring already, because we have seen such unprecedented growth in the last couple of years in our city in terms of investment in this area.
And thinking about what the RDA has already done with their resources along State Street in the last 2 years.
So
Capital Motel, for instance.
it would be
right?
great to have some feedback from maybe the attorneys on that.
All right, so we won't put them on the spot now, but we will request from our attorney's office, and I'm looking behind Danny at Katie or Lewis, our RDA attorney, and is that a fair request? Great. Danny, I don't want to put you on the spot either, but if you do have thoughts right now, can you think about pros and cons of backdating or not?
Oh, obviously, the first pro is the fact that you could kickstart and kind of get some money started right away.
Can
I
you
think-
hold that mic right up to
Oh,
them?
sorry.
You're good.
So you would definitely have the opportunity to have some significant tax increment come in right away, year one. I think the biggest con would be reaching out to those entities and what that perception would be, and/or if by doing that backdating, that actually has an impact on the budget and the money that they have received for the past 4 years. If you would be cutting into that and essentially, instead of just collecting the future increment, if you would actually be taking something that they have already received in terms of new growth, that then they would have to give up.
Mr. Chair,
Hold on for 1 second. I'm going to toss this over to Jennifer Bruno. She had a comment on the backdating with regard to the general fund.
Danny hit it.
Okay.
Please, Councilman.
I was just going to say that perhaps when they do an analysis, they could look at different scenarios through which those taxing entities could make those contributions. If there is a backdating, it could be certain percentages over the next 5 years or something. I'm sure there's a few scenarios they could come up with that would make it less cumbersome.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's quite a bit of money too. We're talking $4 million a year potentially, which is much more than the 100 and some odd thousand we talked about before they got taken out for the seed money. So it would be a massive benefit. But you're right, that's not a small amount of change for these taxing entities. So I would endorse that over the other alternatives we may or may not have, the loans and other things. But as well, I'll bring back the loan concept we've talked about before. Can you loan it up front and get things done that way? So.
Okay. We can run a few different scenarios, and obviously the city would be one of the entities we come back and negotiate with. So that would
Great.
be coming back to you one way or another.
Appreciate that. Anything else, board members, on this item? Nothing? Hooray. All right. In that case, I will look for a motion from board members to adopt the resolution. We have a printout on your folder there.
To clarify, Mr. Chair, there are two resolutions, one that adopts the State Street Community Reinvestment Area and one that adopts the 9-Line Community Reinvestment Area. You can do both in one motion as long as you specify that there are two resolutions for those purposes.
Mr. Chair, do you want to make a motion
I'm happy.
on a particular one?
I'm happy to make a motion, but I will also trust you to make it if you have something up your sleeve.
Well, I think we share in that desire. And maybe, Andrew, do you want to make a motion?
I'm second down here, so go ahead first. If you
Do
want.
it all together?
Yeah, let's do it all together.
Okay. Well, I would move, actually, I don't have the language in front of me. I was just going to make it up. Thank you.
And I have them outlined. There's two there, so if you'd like to combine.
I move that the board approve a resolution adopting the State Street Community Reinvestment Area Plan, and that the board approve a resolution adopting the 9-Line Community Reinvestment Area Plan.
Is there a second to that motion? It's been moved by board member Mendenhall and a second by board member Johnston. Any discussion on these items? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, and we have adopted those two resolutions. Congratulations, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Board member
Staff to
Johnston.
help somebody over here for a second.
I beg your pardon?
Staff to help a constituent over here. For a second.
Sure. Becky or somebody from the city council office, could you help this constituent over here? And can I have Tamara Wharton raise your hand? Okay, that's her. We're going to hold, so we received a comment card from Tamara. Did you still want to speak to the city council or the RDA board? Okay, we have closed this public hearing, so I'm going to look to the board for a motion to reopen the public hearing if you guys would like to give Tamara an opportunity to speak to the RDA board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are back in our public comment period for the State Street and 9-Line, as well as the first budget amendment. And I will invite Tamara to the mic, where you can take 2 minutes to give us your public comment.
I'm very grateful. Thank you for the opportunity, and I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for the work that you do for our city. I really appreciate it. I did want to say, I don't know if you're aware of the inspector that was murdered in West Valley City, and I just want to tell you that I'm really proud of our community as well as our public officials and our city officials. I was an appointee, a mayoral appointee, and a merit employee of Salt Lake City years ago, so I am very concerned that that we all remain safe, and I just want to honor her service to her city at this time, as well as the firefighter that gave his life. So I live in the State Street Master Plan area, and I'm going to bring some props out here really, really fast because I have a really bad memory, and I've been working in my yard. So first of all, I came from my yard. I bought a house at 1487 South Edison that nobody wanted. I've worked really hard, re-roofed, painted, re-landscaped, and done as much as I could. And a year and a half ago, I had a house fire, so I've been working to recover from that. So I just want you to know that I don't want my house demolished, and I don't want other people in my neighborhood don't want their home demolished. We work hard to keep our homes. Many of us are on fixed income. I recently retired, so I just want to put that out there. Please do not demolish our home. I've talked to 51 residents in our area. They do not want taxes increased, so please do not increase the taxes. I live across from the Salt Lake Community College, South City campus, and that area is a CRA area as designated. The other part of it is that our city council or community council has not had direct contact with us. Of the 51 people I have spoken to in my neighborhood, only 2 people knew about this meeting. So we got the public hearing information, but it was so overwhelming that people didn't understand it. It was code. There was no impact statement. So we are very concerned about the impact of that. And if that is my notice, I just want you to know I'm Native American. My ancestors gave up their land for people that moved in, and I just don't want that to happen without a partnership, that we all have a partnership. So I'd ask you to please keep the neighborhood informed, keep us advised of what's going on, and incorporate our comments and our concerns. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your comments today. And with that,
I don't know if you've seen this, but I do want to pass this around to
we
you.
will, if you want to give that to a staff member, we can circulate your notes.
This is what we got. It had coordinates. It had a map.
With that,
So
I
it
will
knows what it means.
look to board members for a motion to close this public comment period.
This was just in my purse. It wasn't a.
Thank you for your comments to the board today.
Mr. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
may I, ma'am, your specific questions about the tax and the eminent domain concerns.
Yes.
Our staff members can address that to you if you'd like to talk to them in a minute.
Great. And I have some neighbors that I recognize here, and they might want to join in that conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Mendenhall, second by Board Member Rogers. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries, and we are out of our public comment period, hopefully for the final time. And now I would look to a board member for a motion to go into our closed session. We have a closed session today to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property and attorney-client matters.
Where is it?
I move that we I move that we go into a closed session to discuss attorney-client matters and acquisition of real property.
Second that.
It's been moved by Board Member Fowler and a second by Board Member Rogers. I'm going to roll call this, starting with Andrew
Yes.
Johnston, Chris Wharton, Aaron Mendenhall,
Yes.
Amy Fowler, James Rogers,
Yes.
Charlie Luke, and I'm a yes. That carries unanimously. We are in closed session. If you are not authorized to be here, if you are not city council staff, if you are not attorney or administrative staff, please see to the door. Thank you. All right, if you are not executive staff, if you could see yourself to the hallway, that'd be great. Thank you. Can we do a quick scan of the audience to make sure that everybody left is authorized to be in here? No. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Andrew, will you shut that door behind you, please? Thank you. started. We have a lot to power through in only 25 minutes. So we're going to pick this up at item C, approval of minutes from last time.
Move that we approve the minutes.
I second.
So just to clarify, this is for Tuesday, July 10th and Tuesday, August 14th, 2018. Been moved by Board Member Mendenhall and a second by Board Member Fowler. All those in favor?
Aye. It was opposite, but that's okay.
And that motion carries. Now we're on to item C2, budget amendment number 1 for the fiscal year 2018-2019. We have 5.
You better wait on this one.
All right.
I can make a motion.
We are waiting on Board Member Luke.
No any jokes?
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to skip item C2, move on to the Northwest Quadrant tax increment policy until we can have Charlie Luke with us. At the desk, we have Tammy Hunsaker and Danny Waltz. Hey, guys.
How you doing? Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Just real quickly, I'll cue it up, and then Tammy will give a little bit more information. This is the adoption and creation of a policy for tax reimbursement within the Northwest Quadrant project area that was created last year. As part of our development agreement with the developers who are significant landowners out there, we have the provision that we would adopt this policy to provide guidance and the procedures for tax reimbursement. And I'll turn to Tammy to add any details that she can add.
Great, thank you. So just a quick overview, as Danny stated, this is to essentially set up the process for adopting future tax increment reimbursement agreements. So each agreement will come back to the board for final approval. The policy that you have before you under consideration is based on the standard RDA tax increment reimbursement policy that was adopted, I believe, last November. But with the differences in development occurring in the Northwest Quadrant, we realized that we did need to implement a unique policy for the Northwest Quadrant. So some of the changes from the standard policy to this one include the ability to provide tax increment reimbursement for system-wide improvements. Typically, the RDA in all of our other project areas, we provide tax increment reimbursements for project-specific and parcel assemblage specific improvements. But in the Northwest Quadrant, improvements might be needed for backbone infrastructure. So the policy lays out the process for identifying and allocating tax increment for those projects. Another unique difference is that up to 70% of the annual tax increment generated and collected by the RDA can be provided via reimbursement with a maximum reimbursement term of 20 years. Another significant difference is in the policy, it states that the RDA will carry out a public benefit analysis by a third-party consultant for each project under consideration for funding. However, we, through the policy, would have the ability to waiver that requirement if the total amount projected to be allocated is $1 million or under. So for smaller projects that might not need the full analysis, we could potentially waive that. The policy was presented to the Redevelopment Advisory Committee on June 6th, and they recommended the adoption of the policy as presented.
Did they have any feedback?
No, they thought it was great as it was written, so.
Okay. Board members, I think maybe Board Member Fowler, you have a question? Nope, I misunderstood. Board Member Mendenhall, please.
I just want to thank you, Tammy, because it's no small amount of work to take this on, and you have done a great job with our policies this year around tax increment and other ways. So anyway, this is a great piece of work, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
Board members. I'm looking for action. I'm looking for an adoption.
Chairperson, my brain needs some more sugar in it, but I move that we adopt the Northwest Quadrant
Resolution.
tax increment policy.
It's been moved by Board Member Fowler and a second by Board Member Mendenhall. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously, so congratulations and good luck. Thank you very much. All right, now that Charlie Luke is back, we're going to jump back, hopscotch style, to item C2, which is the budget amendment number 1 for FY 2019. Board members, any questions? I know we have Danny here at the table, but if not, then I will look for a motion from our board members here.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion. I move that the board approve a resolution amending the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget as recommended by the administration and including items, does that say I-1 and I-2 as shown on the motion sheet?
It's been moved by Board Member Fowler, and I'm looking for a second. It's been moved by Board Member Fowler and a second by Board Member Wharton to adopt as presented by the administration, including the 2 additions, item I-1 and I-2. Any discussion? I'm going to roll call this one. We're going to start with Board Member Johnston,
Yes.
Board Member Wharton, Board Member Mendenhall, Board Member Fowler, Board Member Luke, Board Member Rogers, and I am a yes. So that motion carries 6-1. Congratulations.
Excellent. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Appreciate that.
We are on to item C5, which is, let me just check my clock really quick. I think we're good. All right, we've got 20 minutes, so we're gonna stay on schedule here. We're at item C5, pricing terms for the property located at 901 Gale Street, land disposition for the Bicycle Collective. All right, Danny.
Okay. I was afraid Tammy left the room. I'm going to have her do this presentation. In the interest of time, we'll
Fabulous.
get through it very fast.
Thank you.
All right, so in November of 2017, the RDA selected the Bicycle Collective through an RFP process to be the potential developer of 0.26 acres of RDA-owned property at 901 Gale Street in the Granary District. So to provide some perspective, this is essentially just south of the city's fleet block. The organization is planning to develop a 15,000 square foot multi-use facility that will bring numerous public benefits to the neighborhood as well as the 9-line corridor. To assist with the project's financial viability, the Bicycle Collective has requested from the RDA a 100% land write-down of the purchase price of the property, which the purchase price of the property has been valued at $280,000. In consideration of this request, we've analyzed both the project's public benefits and a financial analysis of the project, and RDA staff recommends the full write-down of the property. Just a high-level overview, some of the public benefits that the project will bring is job training and creation. The project will allow the Bicycle Collective to expand programming with focus on additional youth and job training programs. This will allow them to hire additional staff. Social impact, as a local nonprofit, their focus really is on providing refurbished bicycles and educational programs to the community with focus on children, lower income households, and refugee populations. And neighborhood amenities will be a significant public benefit of the project. This is a site plan and it's hard to read, but this is essentially part of the 9-line corridor, and they will have a bike repair shop along the 9-line, a drinking fountain, and also covered bicycle parking, which is a really cool aspect of the project. There will be parking along the southern edge of the site. Here are some project renderings. That's looking at it from Ninth South. I'm not sure what's
Tammy, you mentioned some of the amenities that will complement the 9-line. How about the design of the sidewalk and the public space itself? Is that in line with what transportation has envisioned for this section of the Ninth South area?
I believe it is, and we actually have both Clint Watson from the Bicycle Collective and Jesse Hulse, the architect on the project here, that could definitely, we can dive into that a little bit more. Just a couple of other points on it. The project will be designed to LEED Silver equivalent standards. So this is another rendering from Gale Street. And then, I don't know what it's doing here. Looking at the financial aspects of the project, so the total cost is estimated to be $3.5 million. Their sources and uses are up here. They're planning on putting developer equity in there, the Bicycle Collective is. The RDA property discount would be $280,000. That equals about 8% of the total project cost. They're applying for new market tax credits and going out fundraising through a capital campaign. They're also maximizing private investment through the National Development Council. They have a letter of interest to provide financing for the project.
I'm going to pause you really quick. Board Member Fowler.
Thank you. This question has no bearing on my support of this project, and I just was curious of what happens if they don't get the new market tax credits. I mean, is that just $700,000 they have to raise through their capital campaign, or is it pretty certain that that new market tax credit will be there? Like, where's our surety on that? Just again.
It is not certain, but they are eligible and qualify through the program. We will know by January if they've received those funds. I will let Bicycle Collective speak more to this if you wish, but I believe that they would just extend their capital campaign and have to cover the amount through additional fundraising if they don't get the new market tax credits.
I see some head nods in the back, so
Okay.
thank you.
All right, so we'll let Tammy finish, but I'd like to have Jesse and Clint on cue after you're done. Yeah.
My little intro is done, so.
Oh, fabulous. Well, in that case, if we could have the two of you come up and be ready for questions, and I'm going to open it up to board members for a further dialogue on this.
And they also have their capital campaign consultant with them as well.
Wonderful. Great. All right, board members. Any questions?
The question that you, sorry,
Yes.
Chair, the question that you asked just about the sidewalks and the streetscape and how that plays in line with that neighborhood, I would be interested in as well.
Right now, the design is really flexible. We don't have complete 9-line plans, but we have the ability to match and integrate with whatever's happening. But some things we know for sure that we're going to have are a public drinking fountain, a bike fix-it station, which is a place where you can pump up your tire and it has some basic tools. We also want to have plenty of shade so that it's a comfortable place to flop off your bike and get on the grass and cool off. So those are right now our plans.
All right. As far as the financing goes, my question is at the NDC, so they've provided a letter of interest. What does that mean exactly?
It was a letter of interest that was provided by actually the national head of the NDC, and it basically means that from what they've looked into so far, they see us as a potential borrower.
And what's the process going forward with them?
We are in the process of setting up a meeting with Lily Gray with the NDC so that we can find out exactly what we qualify for and what they're willing to lend to us. And if not, then we are pursuing other potential lending options as well.
And as far as the new market tax credit goes, do you have somebody sponsoring you or working with you on this?
Yeah, we are working with Amy Rowland with the CDFA.
Fabulous. Okay.
And she has made it clear that we are going to try. It's not a guarantee, but we are going to try as hard as we can to get it. If it doesn't come through, our plan again is just to continue our capital campaign until we raise the funds afterwards.
Is there a development timeline written into this land right now?
Yes, if everything goes as planned, they will break ground fall of 2019. So what happens next is if this property discount is approved by the board, then the RDA will move forward with entering into an option to purchase agreement with the Bicycle Collective. The option to purchase agreement lays out all the steps they need to complete for the RDA to convey the property to them, and the purchase price is outlined in that document.
Okay, so if next autumn rolls around and they're not quite ready to break ground, what happens?
Well, that would be an ongoing partnership and negotiation between the Bicycle Collective and the RDA. So we will, through the option to purchase agreement, implement benchmarks and standards, but as we know, issues happen and we can be flexible to a point, but really try to hold developers to specific benchmarks.
It would also depend on what that delay was caused from. If it's a permitting or design or something that, was outside of their control. If it's a capital campaign, then, where are they at in that process? And what's the plan for hitting those milestones. So
Have you contemplated the RDA loan fund as a backup?
That's a possibility.
Okay. Board members? Not an enchilada. Okay. Great. I'm going to look for a motion.
Find it.
You can make a recommendation if you'd like.
Yeah.
You can just move for approval if you'd like.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
All right, it's been moved by Board Member Johnston, and there's a second by Board Member Wharton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to keep Jesse Hulse around.
Yeah, you're gonna say if I'm here.
All right, we are on to item C6, pricing terms for property located at 912 and 916 Jefferson Street in the adjacent project area. All right, so we've got Danny Waltz, we have Suze, we have Court.
We got the whole crew up here.
All right, guys.
Okay, this is just moving on down 900 South to our West Temple Gateway project area. I'm going to have Suze talk through this, as this is the same concept, land right down for one of RDA parcels.
Thanks, Danny. Yes, so we just wanted to discuss the land write-down request from Central Ninth Partners to acquire the properties at 912 and 916 Jefferson. This would be to construct the second phase of the Central Ninth Market project. This second phase would be a mixed-use development that has retail on the ground floor and 6 housing units up above. They are requesting a full write-down of the property from the appraised value of $385,000 down to 0. We support this. The RDA staff supports this request because of the construction of affordable housing and because of the small-scale neighborhood development that this project would bring as a second phase to the Central Ninth Market that went in 2016? 2016. So with that, the memo kind of outlines all the bullet points of the justification, but if there are any questions that we can answer, I would love to do that.
Board members?
Can I make a comment,
Please.
Mr. Chair? I think this is a great project, and I'm happy to see that second phase coming to fruition, hopefully. I'm grateful that the RDA staff has been supportive of this request, and I'll be supporting this request. We've heard, we've had affordable housing development happen in the past in this area, and there's definitely some market rate housing happening across the street. But this project, actually I should say that the applicants here know this neighborhood better than anybody, I think, and are completely integrated in the business life that has become its own ecosystem in the Central Ninth area thanks to their work. So I have an incredible amount of trust in their vision for whatever process they undertake, and this one particularly I think is really thoughtful for how the neighborhood is developing and what those needs are, and it's also cognizant of the reality that we've got a relationship here between the RDA and Atlas. So this is a great project, and I'm happy to support it.
Board Member Fowler.
I just have a quick question. I noticed in the memo that under number 2, the constructing of affordable housing, I recognize that without the land write-off and without the potential other ask that may be coming down the line, that making this project affordable would probably not be possible. So I'm glad to see that we're looking at that and happy to help with our affordable housing. And these will be at the 60% AMI, correct? I see for a 30-year affordability term, I was wondering if that could be extended, or this is like where we're at, it's 30-year affordability term. I'm looking, we have a presentation later today in our council meeting about affordable housing, and where we're going to be in 30 years may not be, honestly, much further, if not worse, than where we're at now. And so I'd like to make sure that if there's a way to extend that affordability term of that deed restriction.
I'll be dead by then, hopefully, so,
That doesn't get you out of this.
by me. But I think that was traditionally the term that the city has for other affordability requirements, so that's why we use the 30-year affordability requirement. I know for low-income housing tax credits, the federal government requires 15 years. The state usually requires that to be extended to 50 years. So those are just two other guidelines. I'm okay with it, but
Well, and
you'll still be alive. I
Yeah.
think.
it may be a policy discussion that we have kind of in a broader sense as we move forward in constructing more affordable housing, but that's something that caught my eye and something we had talked about yesterday in our meeting that I wanted to make sure we brought attention to, so.
Well, I think to add on to that, I've always liked to look at this as neighborhood-specific workforce housing. These units are really geared towards people that work and live, or well, want to work, do work, but want to live in our neighborhood, that don't necessarily have a car, but they work in the businesses that Central Ninth has created. And so I think that it's a really good fit, and I don't see that changing, hopefully even 30 years from now, that everything is still working the way it is, and we still need places for bartenders and baristas and clerks and everybody that this fits for.
Just one last comment. Thank you, because I do appreciate that, and it's something that I think we need to also focus on, that we've kind of lost a little bit of focus on, is that workforce housing in that sort of 60% AMI area. So I support this project. Just kind of want to make sure we're kind of thinking about it broader as well as we're thinking about these things, because I appreciate in Sugar House, we need some of that workforce housing where people can afford to live where they work. So, yeah, thanks.
Can I ask a question? The original proposal was, I believe, for 4 owner-occupied units, correct?
Correct.
Why the move to 9 rental units?
It's actually 6.
Or, excuse me, 6.
Want me to answer that? I think it's a combination of factors. I think that it's a better fit for the neighborhood, for what the neighborhood, as we've lived there for a while and seen the pattern, I think that this scale works really well. I think the townhouses would have been great, but there are some headwinds with doing townhouses with financing. And if you're building them yourself, it's a lot easier, but we are not builders. So I think that all in all, this fits the city's goals better. I think long-term, it's actually a better fit for the neighborhood as well.
Okay. I have a follow-up question. In the memo here, or the transmittal, excuse me, it discusses the relationship between the RDA and the developer, and the patience that the developer has exercised with the RDA on streetscape. Can you dive into that for the record and talk about how soon we can get that done?
Danny's looking at me, so I guess I'll jump in there. We are in the process of working with Rocky Mountain Power on getting a contract-ready estimate to bury the power lines. And you may remember the discussion about the 900 South streetscape improvements that we have proposed. A critical part of those improvements is burial of those power lines. That does a couple of things. One of the things it does is it removes kind of an artificial height cap for developments that want to build taller than 30 feet. And that has to do with fire access to these buildings. That's one of the benefits. The other is the flexibility it allows as we lay out the streetscape, and allows us to integrate more on-street parking, which is one of the goals from this project from the beginning. And then the third thing is the aesthetic factor that we get and what we can do from an urban forestry perspective if the overhead power lines are not there. We can just create a more comfortable pedestrian environment that is more shaded, more conducive to the small business atmosphere. So a lot of this hangs on Rocky Mountain Power's involvement and participation. We met with them 2 weeks ago and went through some of their preliminary numbers, and we've been promised some numbers from them during the month of August. So I suspect in the short term, whether that's 30, 60 days, we should be back in front of the board with some additional information about the project.
Okay. Yeah, because I have more questions, but I don't want to go too far off topic here. So we'll plan on having a discussion with the board in September, hopefully, maybe October. Sound good?
Probably October, because
Okay.
our transmittal dates we're already beyond that for September.
Okay, you're right, because it's September 11th that we meet? Okay. All right, board members, any other questions on this item? Board Member Johnston?
Yeah, thanks for your question earlier, because I saw the earlier renderings of the owner-occupied units. They're designed a certain way with parking and storage and those kind of things. And this is divided up that way still, the map we have.
At what point will they have any schematics or actually renderings of your thoughts on what you're thinking you're doing?
I think pending this meeting, we will go right into design.
Okay. So right now you've hit the target of 6 units, but you haven't designed kind of how you'd fit them on there and those kind of things?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we'll probably also undo the platting the way it is, although
That's my, yeah, okay.
although they don't have necessarily a process for unplatting what you platted, but we'll figure it out.
Make one up. Thank you.
Okay, can you speak to timeline on this? If we adopt today,
Our timeline on this is we would then finalize what the agreement would look like at this point. They would work into design, secure the rest of their financing, and I would hope that you guys would probably be looking at breaking ground next fall, 2019.
If not sooner.
Not soon.
so there's no benchmark or timelines written into this at all?
Not as of right now. We'd build those into what our agreement would be moving
So we
forward.
could be 2021 and still not see any development?
Hopefully not. And there's a possibility too that we'll return to the board as well with a loan request for this project as
Okay.
well. So that'd probably
That
be
tees
part
up
of their
my next
financing
question.
package.
Can you guys talk about your financing?
Well, our goal is to come back to the city for financing as well, just to get to the benchmarks we need to put in the affordable housing. And also, I know it's probably premature to talk about it, but depending on how that financing is structured, we could do all 6 units as affordable.
Okay, so do you have other financing discussions in the works right now? Because, not that we're not interested, obviously, but if we write down this property and look to financing, we're talking well over $1.5 million investment on this, right?
I haven't done that math, but trust your math is correct. You know, one of the interesting things about this project is that we're looking at a different way to finance it than the traditional low-income housing tax credit program, which is frankly very expensive to go through that process and also time-consuming. So, I mean, this is sort of almost a test case of using alternative financing mechanisms for building affordable housing. And, you know, affordable housing obviously is not cheap to build.
Yeah. Okay. All right, board members. Any other questions? Okay, we are running out of time, so I'm going to look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board adopt a resolution authorizing a 100% land write-down sales price of RDA-owned property located at 912 and 916 South Jefferson Street.
Third.
All right, we have a motion by board member Mendenhall and a second by board member Luke. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations, fellows. We'll see you soon. All right, do you have any announcements?
Just one that
What's
I'd
that?
like to make, which
Yeah.
is we have extended and an offer has been accepted by Jill Wilkerson-Smith to be our deputy director.
Fabulous. Congratulations,
to-
Jill.
She's hoping she doesn't have to come up and answer any questions, but I think we might want to make some time. Those of you who know Jill know that she's been with the city and the agency for 27 years, essentially played almost every role within the agency now, and we're excited to have her. She's going to bring with her a huge amount of institutional knowledge and experience, and we are going to lean on her heavily to really start getting the operations side of the agency running smoothly.
Great. We have 1.5 minutes for questions and answers to Jill. So, Jill, if you could come up really quickly.
Thank you.
And I'm looking to our board chair or our council chair for permission on this timeline extension. 1.5 minutes, okay.
Minutes. It's now 1 minute.
All right, Jill, in just a few words, what was the agency like 27 years ago?
Very, very different. Small. I was actually talking to Danny about how actually housing and neighborhood development, that function used to be under RDA. I don't know if anyone knows that, but all the CBDG program was created under the redevelopment agency originally, and then it moved under the city's housing umbrella when Didi Corradini came in as mayor. When I came into the RDA, I was actually under Palmer DePaul's administration, and I think with all due respect, some of you may not have been born yet, or you're very young. So I've been here for a really long time. I've seen a lot of change. I've seen evolution. It's a great organization. That's what I love about the RDA, is that always changes. It's very fluid. We can do a lot of great things. We have great tools and great staff at our disposal, and I'm an honor to serve you and the mayor and the great city of Salt Lake.
You'll be great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jill. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I have no announcements. Do you have anything, Amy?
No.
No. Okay, we're going to skip written briefings. I'm sure if you guys have questions, maybe we can put that on a future agenda. We have some space in September. And we're going to move right along to the consent agenda. Looking for a motion. It's been moved by Board Member Fowler, second by Board Member Luke. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Congratulations to Brian Doty in the back there. Raise your hand, please, Brian. He's now on the Redevelopment Advisory Committee. Congratulations, and that does it for our RDA meeting. Danny?
Just real quick, I neglected to say we've also hired Robin Smith as an administrative position. It's been a while since she started, so I think I missed the last meeting because she wasn't available to attend. So she's here in the office too. If she can just raise her hand. There she is.
Hi, Robin.
So we're
Well,
filling out
maybe
the
we'll
staff.
have a few questions for you next month, but yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We made her come down, so I figured I might as well at least call her out.
Thank you. All right, Aaron, when do you want to start? Right now? Can we?
Do you need another one?
Just to move our chairs. How about that? Okay.
Thank you, council members, for such a swift and smooth transition. Welcome to the council work session. Our first item is the Homeless Resource Center fee waiver public benefit analysis. We've got, hello.
Randy Hillier.
Hi, Sylvia.
And Sylvia.
Thank you for being here with us, Randy Hillier. And I know that we have available in the audience David Litvak, Megan DePaulis, and Preston Cochran and Ben Seastrand from Shelter of the Homeless Board, the last two. Sylvia, do you want to start us off?
Yes, the council may wish to balance the options between setting a precedent by agreeing to waive the city permit fees for a nonprofit organization, which is recommended by the administration, versus the importance of the city's role in supporting solutions for and assistance to individuals who are experiencing homelessness. The administration sent to the council a public benefits analysis and is recommending that the council set a public hearing, which the council could do later on this evening in the formal meeting, set a public hearing for September 18th. And with that, I don't know if you'd like to hear from Randy?
Sure, Randy, do you want to say something?
Sure. This was done according to Utah Code 10-8-2. Because it's a nonprofit, it's not required, but we do a semi-formal analysis looking at the benefits of what would be provided and whether or not we feel it helps the city to meet the goals that it has and provides a public benefit. And it was felt that it does, and the administration is in support of this.
Thank you, Randy. Hi, Mary Beth Thompson from Director of Finance.
Hi, how are you?
You're just here to answer questions if we have any.
I am. I'm here to support Randy.
Okay. Councilmember Fowler? And then
Chairperson, I want you also to note that Shelter of the Homeless individuals are here, as well as Megan, and Shelter of the Homeless individuals are here. If you have any questions, they can come up and answer them.
we will want to bring them up.